The Tale of Wikuga. Chapter 1. The Whispering Hills. The valley of Naruwa lay nestled between emerald slopes, where the air itself seemed to hum with the soft murmur of stories. In this village, silence was considered a curse, and every hearth burned brighter when a tale was told. Wikuga was the youngest storyteller in Naruwa. Barely 20, with dark hair always untamed by the wind, he carried a peculiar gift. Whenever he spoke a story, strange things happened. Candles bent toward his breath as though eager to listen, shadows stretched along the walls, and sometimes the wind itself would hush to hear. People smiled at him fondly, but whispered, too, was his talent a blessing, or something stranger? Yet Wikuga felt an emptiness gnawing inside. He had told every tale he knew, from the legends of firebirds to the ballads of lost kings, but each time he finished, silence filled the room heavier than before. He longed for something beyond the familiar hills, a story no one had heard. One autumn evening, a traveler arrived. Cloaked in dust, eyes weary with roads unending, he asked for bread and fire. As the villagers gathered, he looked at Wikuga and said, "Boy, do you know of the story that was never told?" The words clung to the night air like smoke. No one spoke. No one dared. And Wikuga felt his heart seize, because he had never heard of it, and yet the very sound of the phrase stirred him like destiny. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss more eerie and fascinating tales. Chapter 2. The Traveler's Secret. That night, Wikuga brought the traveler food and asked about the story. The man's voice trembled as though heavy with years. "All my life I have sought it," he said. "A tale older than rivers, one that was never spoken aloud. Some say it lies beyond the edge of silence itself. But only one whose words breathe life can find it." The traveler leaned close. "That is you, Wikuga." Before dawn, the man vanished. His mat lay empty, and the villagers claimed he must have gone on. But beneath his blanket, Wikuga found something left behind, a scrap of parchment, its ink broken into shifting shapes. When he whispered the markings, they stirred like living symbols, aligning into a half-map. Wikuga's pulse raced. It was as if the world itself had given him a summons. He packed bread, a jug of water, and his worn sandals. As dawn painted the hills, he left Naruwa behind. Chapter 3. The River of Forgotten Names. The map led him east, through meadows of tall grass that whispered secrets, until at last he stood before a silver river. Its waters ran silently, yet on its surface floated countless names, written in glowing script, drifting like fallen leaves. Wikuga bent low. When he spoke one name aloud, a whisper rose from the water, a memory of a lost soul calling faintly. Faces shimmered below the surface, blurred and yearning. But the river spirits hissed, their voices threading through the reeds. "Take too many, and you will drown in stories not your own." Wikuga trembled. He could not resist forever, but he chose carefully. One name glowed brighter than the rest, Sarela. He whispered it, and a warmth coursed through him, as though a companion walked beside him unseen. He thanked the river and moved on, but from then on, he heard faint footsteps in his shadow. Chapter 4. The Forest of Listening Stones. Days later, he entered a forest unlike any he had seen. The trees bore no leaves, only grey bark carved with ears of stone. The air thrummed with echoes, each step releasing murmurs of past wanderers. "Do not take the eastern path," a woman's voice sighed. "I never found her again," wept another. "Beware the silence," whispered a chorus. The forest did not want to be told a story. It wanted to be listened to. So Wikuga silenced his own tongue and let the voices wash over him. At night, beneath the bare branches, one phrase repeated above all others. "Find me where silence lives." The voice was faint but familiar, as though belonging to the name he had carried, Sarela. Wikuga clutched his map tighter. Chapter 5. The City of Mirrors. At the forest's end rose a dazzling sight, a city made entirely of mirrors. Towers gleamed, streets shone, and every wall reflected infinity. The people within wore masks made of polished glass, each showing only their own reflection. Wikuga tried to speak, but every word he uttered was caught and multiplied endlessly, bouncing from mirror to mirror until the sound became unbearable. The city was drowning in echoes of itself, unable to hear anything new. Disoriented, Wikuga nearly forgot who he was. But then he whispered the name Sarela. Unlike his own words, it did not echo. Instead, the city froze for a heartbeat, as if listening. In that silence, he passed through unharmed. Chapter 6: The Keeper of Shadows. Beyond the mirrored towers, the land grew barren. There, in a valley of dusk, Wikuga met a cloaked figure, the Keeper of Shadows. Around him floated countless dark shapes, writhing like caged birds. "These are the untold stories," the Keeper said. "Those who never spoke them lost their voices, and I keep their silence." The Keeper's face remained hidden, but his voice was like thunder muffled. "Turn back, boy. You are not ready. If you pursue the untold story, you may vanish into silence forever." Wikuga's chest tightened with fear, but he thought of the traveler, of the voices, of Sarela's call. "Then let me vanish," he said. "I must see it." The Keeper parted the shadows, and Wikuga stepped into darkness. Chapter 7: The Bridge of Unspoken Truths. Within the dark, a narrow bridge stretched over an endless abyss. Its threads shimmered, woven of light, each representing a truth never spoken. A voice boomed, "To cross, confess your silence." Wikuga shook, but he stepped forward and whispered, "I fear I am no true storyteller. That the stories I tell are stolen from the air and not my own." The bridge trembled, then steadied. He had spoken his hidden fear, and it held his weight. He crossed, heart lighter though his knees shook. Chapter 8: The Desert of Endless Beginnings. The path led him to a desert where the sand itself whispered. Each grain carried the beginning of a story. Once there was a boy. In the time before rivers. Beneath the seventh moon. But none ever ended. The beginnings swirled around him, endless and intoxicating. Wikuga staggered, overwhelmed, feeling himself pulled into the torrent of unfinished tales. Just as despair took him, the name Sarela glowed on the shifting map. It cut through the noise like a thread of gold. Holding on to it, he stumbled onward, guided by that single word. Chapter 9: The Silence Beyond the Sky. At last, he reached a plain so vast and white it seemed to swallow the world. There was no wind, no breath, no heartbeat. Sound itself had died. In the center lay a scroll, blank as snow. Wikuga picked it up, his hands trembling. The story that was never told. But it was empty. And then he understood it was not meant to be written. It was waiting to be spoken. Waiting for him. Chapter 10: The Story That Shapes the World. Wikuga closed his eyes. He spoke, not with fear, but with all he had carried. He told of the river of forgotten names, of the forest that listened, of the city drowned in echoes, of the Keeper of Shadows, of the bridge and the desert. He wove them together, and with each word, the world shifted. Rivers straightened their courses. Stars rearranged into new constellations. Mountains rose from the plain. The very silence bent to listen. And in the heart of the story, he spoke Sarela's name. For a moment, he saw her, her face radiant, her eyes full of gratitude. She had been the story all along, waiting to be freed. When Wikuga returned to Naruwa, he was no longer just a storyteller. He was the keeper of stories that had never been told, a bridge between silence and voice. And whenever he spoke, the world itself leaned closer, eager for the next tale.